I'm making bruschetta today for a party. This is easy to make and it's a healthy dish. It's a great appetizer. Let's get started and I'll show you how I make it. To start this bruschetta recipe, you're going to need Roma tomatoes. And if they're average size, you'll need 9. If they're large, like these are kind of big, you'll need 8. If they're small, you'll need 10. And we're going to cut them typically into quarters will be enough, but mine are large, so I'm going to cut each one into 8 pieces. And then the next step we're going to do is go over to the food processor and process the tomatoes. Put the tomatoes into the food processor fitted with the S-blade, and then you're just going to pulse it about 8 to 10 times. The thing is, you don't want it to get pureed. So that was 9. So we're good. Let me pull this out and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so you want it to look like that. So now we're on to our next step. Next you're going to need a colander. I like this larger bowl type strainer that has these little screen holes. And put it all in there and then put 1 teaspoon of salt in it and mix it up. And now it needs to sit and drain. So I'll show you. I put mine over either a large plate or in my case a large soup bowl, and I put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. The thing is, you want to get some of this liquid to drain out. In my refrigerator it looks like this. My colander type screen strainer bowl fits perfectly in this soup bowl. If the tomatoes are especially wet, you might need to dump out the water that drains once and then put it back. You might even stir it once, so an hour or 2 in the refrigerator is fine. I want to show you how much liquid came out of this. Sometimes I stir it a little bit, but this much came out, and I'm actually just going to dump it. Now we're ready to put the rest of the ingredients together. So I have the tomatoes in a bowl here. And I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of dried basil. And you don't have to stir it after every time, but sometimes I do that. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley. I usually like curly parsley in this, but there wasn't any available when I went to the store, so I bought flat. Flat's fine. So 2 tablespoons of 2 tablespoons of that. And then I've minced 1 garlic clove. This is raw garlic. So make sure that gets distributed. If you like it more garlicky, put a little more in, or put a really large clove. I'll probably taste it later and see if it needs another one. Then I'm going to put in some freshly ground pepper. If you don't have a grinder, just shake a little bit of pepper in there. Then I have 2 last ingredients. I have olive oil. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons. And then my last ingredient is balsamic vinegar. You can either use the one that's more liquidy, or you can use the kind that's more thick. And I have one right now that's rather thick. See how that comes out? Really good. A tablespoon of that. Okay. Then I'm going to stir that up. And then I'm going to put it into a sealed container and put it into the refrigerator. I like to make this at least a day in advance so that the flavors can meld in the refrigerator. But I'll also show you next how I serve it. I won't wait till tomorrow to do the last piece of the video. At the store where I shop, they sell French bread, long French bread, in 1 piece, and I bring it over to the bakery counter and I ask them to run it through their slicer. So they end up being this big. So this is nice for appetizer. If you want bigger bread, maybe in the bread aisle there'll be larger pieces of bread. but people just help themselves. If you wanted to arrange it, you could. And you could also toast these ahead of time. If you wanted, you could put a bunch of these breads on a cookie sheet, baking sheet, in a 350-degree oven for just, I don't know, 5 minutes till they just start to turn golden. So that would be another option. Then yet another option is once they're put together like this, if you're going to do it for your guests, then have some chopped fresh basil and put that on top. So that's how I make bruschetta.